During our Christmas gathering, as laughter echoed and presents were shared, my mother covertly drained my life savings to aid my perfect sister in securing her dream apartment. As I entered the dining area, they perched by the festive tree, grinning. "You've forfeited your entire future now," I simply grinned. "What is amusing?" they insisted. I replied, "The funds you stole were in fact." Can you imagine walking into Christmas? The air thick with fake smiles and holiday cheer, only to have your own family tell you, straight-faced, that they've not only stolen your life savings, but they've also secretly given away your house. The house you've been quietly paying for years. To your sister? What would you do? Because in that moment, I knew everything had to change. My name's Caleb, I'm 34, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the fixer, the reliable one, the guy who knows a guy shows up early, leaves last, and just handles it. I own a small construction company now. 3 crews, a yard full of scaffolding, and a dented thermos that's seen more sunrises than most people I know. I grew up in this house, you know? That scratch on the banister? That was me, 12 years old, helping Dad. The squeaky pantry hinge? Also me. I keep a toolkit in my trunk because I'm the son who changes light bulbs before anyone even notices they're dead. Christmas usually means I bring batteries, duct tape, and enough patience to assemble toys at midnight. But this year, I brought quiet. Mom saw me first, in her lucky red sweater. "There he is," she chirped, a big smile for the room, a smaller, knowing one for me. "We were just talking about you. Only good things, I hope?" I joked, already feeling that familiar tug of expectation. "Of course," she said, in that tone that always means the exact opposite. Across the room, my sister Rachel just glowed. She always does. She doesn't walk through rooms lean toward her. She was by the tree with her boyfriend and a cluster of cousins. Golden child energy is a real thing, I swear. Dad raised his glass. "The provider," he announced like it was a punchline. People actually clapped. I forced a laugh because that's my line, right? Affable, reliable, grateful Caleb. I put my gifts under the tree batteries, cabinet hinges, a box of rare screws for a back deck I'd been meaning to fix, little offerings, mostly symbols. Just to say, I still care. "Come sit, sweetie," Mom said. "We saved you a spot by the tree." I stepped into the dining room, and that's when I saw it. Rachel's banking app, open. Mom's phone, lit up with a notification. And Dad, whispering to Mom with a grin he couldn't quite control. "Don't say anything yet." My stomach clenched. "Big day," Rachel practically sang. Mom patted her phone, almost gleefully. "Your sister found her dream apartment. We helped her unlock her future." Then, the words that turned the festive air to ice in my veins. "We took your savings this afternoon." "My what?" I managed. "Your savings," she repeated gently, as if explaining something simple to a child. "The account you always call your future house fund." Rachel needed a down payment. It was time-sensitive. We handled it. As parents, you can rebuild. You're a builder, Caleb. You'll make more. Rachel gave me that closed-lip smile she reserves for victories. "I need stability right now," she added, like it was an undeniable truth. Dad lifted his glass again. "To new beginnings." Everyone waited. They waited for me to be steady, to fix the mood, to say of course. Instead, I just smiled. It wasn't unhinged. It was that small, involuntary smile you make when a complicated blueprint finally clicks into place. "What's so funny?" Rachel asked, her smugness starting to fray. "Nothing," I said, my voice eerily calm. "You're just very sure about what you took." "Took is harsh," Mom interjected, her tone sharpening. "It's family." "Family?" I echoed. I looked at the tree lights, reflecting in a spoon, and something settled inside me. Not rage, just a quiet, absolute clarity. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't touch my phone. I didn't threaten lawyers. Not yet. I just said, "Okay, let me back up. I'm not dramatic. I'm a builder. My world is bit calendars, change orders, weather apps. My days start at 5:30 with coffee, end when the last site is locked. I keep receipts for everything. If a screw goes missing, I can tell you when I bought the box, and why its invoice number skipped. Dad taught me to inventory the garage at 12. Mom taught me family is a ledger. Credits for obedience, debits for independence. Rachel learned she was golden. I learned I was background. When we were kids, Rachel got a new bike for AB in algebra. I got an A and a lecture for asking for a used skateboard. At 16, Rachel crashed Dad's Camry. The next week, they went shopping for a safer car for her anxiety. At 19, my truck blew a head gasket. Mom just said, "You'll figure it out, you're resourceful." I took the bus to site for 3 months. That's how it always was. But I found work I loved. I apprenticed under a foreman who smelled like cedar and old coffee. I learned to float drywall so smooth it reflects a room back at itself. I started my company out of a borrowed garage and a secondhand trailer with a ghost logo under the paint. 5 years ago, Dad called, panicked. Your grandmother's house is going up for sale if we can't refinance, he said. It'll break your mother's heart. The number was ugly. About $330,000 on a variable mortgage. Overdue taxes, insurance threatening to lapse. Mom sounded so small on the phone. We just need a responsible person on the loan, she pleaded. I ran numbers between site meetings. Rates were tolerable. My company had history. I could cover it barely if I cut my own salary, delayed equipment, hustled for higher margin kitchens. Keeping the house felt right. I signed. I told myself it was temporary. For 5 years I made that payment. Every month. $2,412.27, then $2,463.91 when taxes adjusted, then $2,502.18 when insurance bumped. I paid when the weather froze projects. I paid when a developer delayed a draw. I paid when my transmission died on a Tuesday. I fixed the roof after a windstorm. I rewired a breaker that kept tripping because Dad loves a garage space heater. I installed a sump pump. I bought a new water heater and called it a Christmas gift. Rachel? She visited on Sundays and took photos for her feed. Last spring, I decided to formalize what had been unspoken. I paid a lawyer to draft a simple agreement. I hold the mortgage and a lien. Mom and Dad have life tenancy. When they pass or choose to sell, I have the right of first refusal. Or, if I decline, the proceeds pay my lien first. Not punitive, just rational. We signed at the kitchen table. Rachel, rolling her eyes, said, so official. Just so there are no surprises, I'd said. Of course. Mom smiled. We're all on the same page. We were not. 3 months later, a thin envelope arrived at my office. County Recorder. I thought it was the annual property notice. It was a copy of a quitclaim deed. In simple language, my name had been removed from the deed history. A family transfer had gifted 100% ownership to Rachel. No call, no warning. Notarized by her friend's boyfriend in an office downtown. The stamp date? It matched a night Mom texted. Dinner is hot if you want to stop by. I'd missed it, laying subfloor in a townhouse. I sat in my truck behind the yard, staring at that paper until my coffee went cold. My exact thought? They really think I'm just a wallet. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't post online. I did what I do. I started measuring. Receipts became a project file. I scanned the deed, highlighting the date and notary block. I pulled 5 years of mortgage statements, saved each PDF. I exported the bank ledger showing every payment leaving my account on the first. I filed the invoices, roof, HVAC, sump pump. I photographed serial number plates. I requested the notary's journal entry. I checked the county index to see the filing sequence. The rush was obvious. I circled clause 4.7 in our life tenancy agreement. No transfer of ownership may impair the mortgage's lien or right of first refusal. Any such transfer shall be voidable at mortgagee's discretion. I even pulled old screenshots. From Mom. The house feels safe with you on paper. 2 weeks before the quitclaim. From Rachel. Help with my apartment search. You're good at boring things. Smiley face. From Dad. Don't overcomplicate. It's family. And then I reviewed my accounts. Like any small business owner, I keep operating payroll, taxes, and personal separate. 2 years ago, after a break-in at a site, I created one more account, nicknamed Future House Fund. On paper, it looked like savings. In reality, it was a holding account tied to a trust my lawyer set up for crew retention and my eventual down payment. Money that could only be used with dual authorization for specific purposes. Equipment, payroll emergencies, or acquisition of my first personal home. I filed the trust. I set audit alerts. I moved real liquid savings to a different bank. The Future House Fund showed a balance for discipline, but it was restricted. Any misdirected funds had to be returned to the originating trust upon notice. So when Mom told me on Christmas they'd used my Future House Fund to help Rachel, the data clicked like joists on layout marks. It explained the grins, the speed, the word, handled. They'd found an old key Mom on a joint recovery form from when I was 21, and used it. They thought it was just savings. They didn't know about the trust language, dual authorization, audit alerts, or clause 4.7, sitting like a hidden beam in the walls of our agreement. I still didn't want a war. I wanted daylight, boundaries strong enough to stop a leak without flooding the house. But then came Christmas dinner, and the smirks. And now you've lost your future. Something in me finally sat up. I didn't storm. I slid my phone out and set it face down on the table. The room buzzed lower. Rachel reached for water. Mom placed her fork delicately. Dad crossed his arms. Caleb, Mom said softly, we know this is a shock. You're strong. You'll rebuild. Your sister has a chance she won't get again. The realtor said things move fast. Things do move fast, I replied, my voice calm. Deeds too. Dad's mouth pinched. This again. I looked at Rachel. When did you sign the quick claim? She blinked. What quick claim? The one that puts the house solely in your name, I clarified. Butter knives hovered mid-air. Mom's face didn't change, only her eyes. One flick toward Dad. We discussed making things simpler, she said, a brittle edge to her voice. You were always more interested in your business. Keeping paperwork tidy helps everyone. Clause 4.7 says otherwise, I said. Clause what? Dad snapped. In the life tenancy agreement we all signed, I explained, pulling a manila envelope from my jacket. Not dramatic, just prepared. I placed the one page they'd initialed last spring on the table, the relevant section highlighted in a neat rectangle. Beside it, the county index printout. Dates, notary, transfer, Rachel's name. Then one more sheet. A page from the trust document governing my future house fund. With one sentence underlined, any disbursement not in compliance with the approved purposes shall be reversed upon notice, and all accounts used for such disbursement shall be placed under temporary hold pending review. A sticky note with a timestamp, from an hour earlier. Unauthorized transfer request flagged. Hold initiated. Rachel's smile finally faltered. What does that even mean? It means, I said, the money you took was actually trust restricted. Not a sock drawer. Not a piggy bank. The bank has already flagged the transfer and initiated a reversal. The title company will get a hold notice if they try to close with those funds. That can't be true, Mom whispered, her voice barely audible. You watched a request, I corrected. Not a settlement. Dad leaned forward. You're going to drown us in paperwork, son. I build things that don't collapse, I stated, my eyes meeting his. Caleb? Mom tried again, sweetness curdling into desperation. This is your sister. She has plans. There are children in her future. You're single. You have your company. You don't need a house yet. I let the words fall heavy and hollow. Rachel crossed her arms. You're making this hard on purpose. I'm making it accurate, I replied. About the deed? Clause 4.7 makes your transfer voidable. About the money? It will be reversed. And about me? I'm done being the background adult who finances everyone else's life and gets called selfish when I ask for basic respect. The room heated, mostly from them. You're overreacting, Dad said. It's a family decision. No, I said, steady as concrete. This is a boundary. Think of the kids. Mom pleaded, as if her future grandchildren were already under the tree. Rachel's boyfriend, silent until now, finally spoke up. You're going to ruin her closing over a technicality? I don't ruin things, I told him, my gaze unwavering. I fix what people break. Then phones buzzed. Mom's, Rachel's. Notifications came in waves, like a tide of digital judgment. It says hold, Rachel whispered, her face pale. Funds on hold. Dad slapped his palm lightly on the table. Enough. Give your sister a yes or a no. I stood. I tucked the papers back into the envelope. I picked up my keys. My hands didn't shake. Okay, I said. Here's the note. My voice carried easily through the stunned silence. No more secret deeds. No more secret transfers. No more using my name like it's a universal donor. No more you're strong, you'll rebuild, as a cover for taking without asking. And the yes? Mom asked, small now. The yes is simple, I said. We can meet after the holiday with a neutral lawyer and unwind what you did in daylight. Or we can let the bank and the county unwind it. Either way, I'm done being invisible. You're punishing us? Mom accused, tears welling. This isn't about revenge, I said. This is about closure. I left the envelope on the table, highlighted lines visible like hazard tape, and stepped onto the porch. The cold air felt new, honest. Behind me, the dining room erupted. Chairs scraped, voices layered over each other. My phone buzzed. One voicemail, one message, 259. I didn't check. I stood under the porch light I'd rewired last spring and let December quiet settle on my shoulders. The next 48 hours looked like a missed call volcano. By noon on the 26th, I had 29 calls from Mom, 14 from Dad, 22 messages from Rachel, and 9 from numbers I didn't recognize. Her realtor, her loan officer, 2 concerned cousins. You're selfish. Mom texted at 8:02 a.m., at least pick up. Be a man. Dad at 8:07. You're ruining my life. Rachel at 8:13. Then please at 8:15. Do you want me homeless? At 8:22. Jealous much? At 8:25. Think of the kids I want. At 8:28. You're not even using that money. At 8:29. At 8:30, my lawyer called. I'd emailed him the night before for my truck. Holiday emergency. Family transfer deed, tried to move trust funds. What are my next steps that keep this clean? We spoke in calm, boring words. He filed a notice of interest at the county first thing. Sent a letter to the bank formally invoking the trust clawback clause. Prepared gentle letters to my parents and Rachel. Cease any further transfers. Meet with a neutral to unwind. No threats, just structure. At 10:12, the bank compliance officer, who knows me because I brought donuts when they approved my first equipment line, called to confirm. The attempted transfer hit the trust tripwire, she said. We've placed a temporary hold on the receiving account. The title company has been notified. Funds will be returned within 3 to 5 business days, unless a court orders otherwise. She sounded apologetic. I thanked her. I meant it. 10:30, Rachel called again. You're destroying my closing. I'm refusing to fund a purchase I wasn't asked about, with money I legally can't give you, I calmly explained. You said you could fix this with one call. I am fixing things, I said. Just not the way you want. By lunch, uncles chimed in. Family is messy, one wrote. Don't be the guy who sues his parents, another warned. As if boundaries equal court. As if pointing at a rule equals violence. I didn't fight online. I worked. At a site where my guys were hanging cabinets. I spent an hour setting crown flush. Measure, mark, cut, lift. My kind of prayer. I brewed coffee. I corrected a layout with a pencil and a quiet. Try this. With my crew, I remembered who I am outside the family script. It helped. That afternoon, I went home to my apartment over the shop. I locked the door. I turned my phone face down. I slept. I woke to 10 more messages, then 20, then 40. I muted the threads. Quiet is a skill. I practiced. The letters went out. Certified. Boring. Beautiful. Please refrain from contacting our client directly. All communications may be directed to our office. That one line worked like a breaker. The calls slowed. Natural consequences unfolded without me shoving them. Rachel's loan officer called my lawyer using a lower voice. The title company confirmed the hold and declined to schedule a closing with disputed funds. The county stamped my notice of interest. The bank reversed the attempted transfer back into the trust and sent a tidy digital note I screenshotted and filed. In the family group chat, cousins debated without tagging me. He could just give half, one wrote. My aunt replied, you can't take people's money without asking. Deleted it, then typed, let's keep this off text, which is code for we know this looks bad. Meanwhile, the house I still paid for sat quietly on its foundation. I drove by one evening and checked the porch light. It burned steady. I fixed a sagging fence latch because the screwdriver was already in my pocket, and because muscle memory is hard to break. At the curb, I rehearsed boundary sentences into the cold until my breath made little clouds. On day 3, Dad called from an unknown number. Your mother is sick over this, he said, his voice strained. You're killing her Christmas. I'm not, I replied. Choices have consequences. You made choices. You're making this so formal on purpose, he accused. Be reasonable. Be a good son. I didn't say, be good parents. Ask before you take. Read what you sign. I just said, going forward, we'll speak with the lawyer present. You got some woman to write those letters. He scoffed as if it were a trick. She's my lawyer, I said. She's also someone's daughter. He hung up. A minute later, he texted a photo of the house at sunset, as if to remind me what he thought I was risking. I saved it anyway, then put my phone in a drawer and ran laps around the empty yard. Cold air, aches in my chest, something uncoiled. Over the next week, noise turned into logistics. Their lawyer met mine. Words like voidable and rescission did quiet work. The county recorded a rescission of the quitclaim. Rachel's file moved from clear to close to suspended. Mom sent 3 postcards with nativity scenes and no return address, like we were strangers. I kept them in a drawer. None of this felt like revenge. It felt like installing a door on a room people assumed was theirs to wander. They jiggled the handle and called it cruel. I called it mine. Inside the quiet, I rebuilt what I should have years ago. A life not run on emergency mode. I slept real sleep. I cooked eggs in a pan I bought myself. I set, do not disturb at 8 p.m. I read the manual for the new miter saw, because reading manuals is soothing. I bought a plant I'll probably keep alive. I put a hook by the door for my keys. I wrote a card for my fridge, what I control, and listed my voice, my time, my money, my patience, my boundaries. Simple. True. It's been 11 months. The house is still there. The porch light still works because I changed the bulb in July. Mom and Dad still live there under the life tenancy agreement. The deed is back where it belongs, complicated and honest, not gilded by the lie of simplicity. My lien is recorded, boring and real. Rachel didn't buy that apartment. The listing sold to someone else. She posted that the market shifted. In March, she texted, you didn't have to humiliate me. I typed and deleted 4 versions of I didn't. Then sent nothing. Her boyfriend is still around, I think. I don't know. I kept my company small on purpose. We finished 2 kitchens. A sunroom that made a retired teacher cry happy tears. And a ramp for a guy who fell off a ladder. I hired 1 more apprentice and gave him Saturdays off because I remember being 20 and bone tired. Payroll hit every other Friday at 9 a.m. Like the sun rising. I bought the miter saw I'd been borrowing and told no one. Felt good. In May, I met my lawyer in a beige conference room and signed a final agreement with my parents. Everything we'd already done, but cleaner. No surprises, no poetry. Just lines that keep the house up. We all initialed clause 4.7 again. Mom's hand shook. Dad didn't look at me at the elevator. Mom said, "I shiny. I didn't realize we were hurting you." I know, I said. It was true, but I did. I still get the itch to fix things. In September, I brought my drill to tighten a hinge and left it in the truck. We ate store-bought pie at the same table where my envelope once sat like a flare. Rachel wasn't there. Dad asked about business in a voice that sounded like someone trying on a shirt he's not sure fits. Mom offered leftovers twice, like that could undo years. I said yes the second time because sometimes the gentlest boundary is also a kindness. Closure isn't a gate that slams. It's a door you frame straight, hang true, and close softly. It latches because it's level. It stays shut because you measured. People ask how I knew what to do. I didn't. I knew what not to do. I knew not to perform tantrums in group chats. I knew not to let shame about being difficult push me back into the old role. I knew I didn't have to be the family wallet to be a good son. What changed is simple. I stopped proving I was generous by letting people take. I started defining generosity as being clear. The index card on my fridge still says what I control. I added 1 more line. My future is mine. Not because I guarded it angrily, but because I built it carefully. On the first cold night of this winter, I stood on a small lot I bought in October, a scruffy triangle behind a stand of maples, and looked at the chalk lines I'd snapped in the dirt. My first personal house. 2 bedrooms, a workshop under the eaves, a porch that faces the late sun. The soil test was in my pocket. The thermos was warm in my hand. I texted my project manager a photo of the chalk. He replied, "Proud of you, boss." I saved that text. I keep good receipts now, not to win a fight, but to remember the build. Sometimes a message still pops up from a number I know too well. "We miss you. Come for Sunday. It won't be like before." I read, breathe, and decide. Sometimes I go for an hour, sometimes I don't. Both are okay. Both are mine. The last postcard Mom sent sits under the little plant by my sink. The stamp is a snowflake. Maybe it says, "Merry Christmas." Maybe it says, "Sorry, I haven't opened it." I don't need to read it to know my boundary stance. That's the moral. If there has to be one, you don't have to be the family wallet. And if love demands your balance, your title, and your silence, it isn't love. It's a habit. I lock the yard. I hang my keys on the hook by the door. I pour coffee into the dented thermos. I step into air that's cold and honest. And I walk toward a life I'm building with my own hands. Not because I want to fight, but because I finally measured, cut, and set the line where it should have been all along. I won't let anyone move it. So, tell me, after hearing all this, what would you have done in my place when your family completely betrayed your trust like that? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts down in the comments.